I hope this leads to something a little optimistic. But so you've been working on organ harvesting for
That's optimistic.
for a number of years. How have you seen that change? Is this going to become one of those issues that you've worked on that disappears? Is it heading in that direction, or
Well, no, I mean, not right now. I wouldn't say it's disappearing now. In fact, it's getting worse
all
because
right?
what's happened is the repression of Falun Gong started in 1999. The large-scale um, sourcing from Falun Gong was a year or two later, 2000, 2001, and it was a result of the Chinese having in their jails a huge Falun Gong population. There was when Falun Gong was first repressed in 1999, the practitioners couldn't really understand why this was happening because it was and is a harmless set of exercises. I mean, it's like the government of India banning yoga. I mean, why would they do that? And so there was a lot of demonstrations basically saying Falun Gong is good, and you just don't understand what Falun Gong is, sort of thing. These demonstrations brought out hundreds of thousands of people who were mostly all arrested. And if they didn't recant and renounce and denounce their co-practitioners, they were kept in indefinite arbitrary detention. So this became a captive organ donor pool, but it was kind of static. I mean, there were continuing arrests over the years, but not in the same huge volume that there was in the early years with the original demonstrations. And so that this captive organ bank over the years, because the numbers that being sourced were tens of thousands every year, the number eventually got depleted.
Ugh.
And so what we've seen more recently is that kind of depletion is being compensated for by Uyghurs, who become a new kind of filling in the gaps in the organ forced organ donor supply chain through the depletion of the Falun Gong. This has become possible again through technology because because of the development of transplant technology, ischemic time, or the time of an organ outside the body, is greater now than it used to be. And when we started our work, China didn't have a national organ distribution system. Now they do, and so it's become a lot easier to do that. And of course, we've got a whole new victim population. There's also Tibetans and the house Christians in smaller numbers. Although I don't know if you follow this, but the Eastern Lightning or the Church of the Almighty God, they've just come up with a recent report that's been dealing with this issue as well. And I think it would be very difficult for the Chinese system to get off this because it's financing the whole health system. It's not just a moneymaker, it's an underpinning, which is part of the reason. I mean, part of the reason China got into it just was the technology was available, but it was also the reason was they'd started sourcing organs from prisoners sentenced to death, and then because of international pressure, they kind of cut down on the number of death penalty cases, and therefore had fewer death penalty organs. And they shifted from, I mean, even though they use the communist name, they don't use socialism. Practically now, it's a capitalist economy with a communist label, and they took a lot of money out of the health system as well as with a lot of other systems. And the result is that the health system basically compensated for with the shift from socialism to capitalism and withdrawal of government funds from the health system. The health system compensated for that, replaced that funding with the selling of organs.
But hold on, that can't be entirely considered capitalist because it is a state-run organ harvesting. So if the healthcare industry is being propped up by the state killing people for their organs, that isn't just a normal capitalist system.
Well, I wouldn't call the Chinese capitalist system a normal capitalist system, far from it. But it's much more. It's capitalist in the sense it's market driven. It's supply and demand sort of thing. And I mean, you could just see what happened with the head of Alibaba. He could make as much money as he wanted, as long as he doesn't criticize China. He starts criticizing China, he disappears.
Hmm.
So that's obviously not a normal capitalist system, but it's a type of capitalist system. And we do have hospitals that say, we couldn't keep our doors open if we weren't selling organs, or they didn't quite put it in those words, but they couldn't keep our doors open if we didn't engage in organ transplantation. That's what they would say. So, your question is this going to end? Well, I don't see an immediate dynamic that's causing it to end. In the short term, this looks to be a continuing problem.